morning, and thank you for being with us for Brothers Brother Clyde.
Man, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
So this is a series where we get brothers from the 100 Black Men of Atlanta to be able to come and just sit down and tell us their story and their journey.
Sure.
And
sure.
let's begin by saying, tell us, who is Clyde?
That's kind of a hard question to ask somebody who's a lawyer, because it always depends. Depends on what day it is, actually. But Clyde is I'm a dad. I'm a son. I'm a servant leader. I am a child of God. I try to, and I guess we could figure out what order that really goes in. I guess God should be first, and then, Clyde's a friend.
Yes.
Clyde is just a person who's concerned about community and making sure that everybody can advance and not just Clyde. It's interesting, I refer to myself in third person, man. That's tough.
No, but thank you for sharing. I know we've gotten to know each other better as we've gone through this journey of the 100.
Yes.
If you could kind of give us your background, I know like where you were born.
Yeah.
Kind of tell us like your childhood, and then what brought you to Atlanta, and then we could go forth from there.
Yeah. So, originally from Illinois. My parents are from Chicago, but I was born in Urbana, Illinois. I was the second child, and my mother was 16 when she had me, if that tells you anything, right? My mom's mother and a few of her sisters and their husbands left Chicago in search of jobs in like factories and other industrial kind of places. And they settled on Champaign, which is a couple hours south of Chicago, actually 127 miles south of Chicago. And so anyway, my mom moved with her mom and stepdad down to Champaign. But I did the back and forth thing, in Chicago and Champaign, and Chicago and Champaign. So I have every bit of the Chicago streets in my blood. Still love Harold's Chicken, it is what it is. And a certain kind of popcorn we like, in Chicago. Most of my education was in Champaign. I went from elementary school through college. I went to the University of Illinois. I had a great community of aunts, cousins who were like siblings to me. When you grow up, I'm not gonna say poor. I could probably take a couple of the O and the R off of that. You know what I'm saying? We struggled. But my mother worked hard, and she provided, and she instilled education in me. And I had a network and a community around me that pushed me in the right direction. I wouldn't be where I am without that, man.
No, thank you for sharing. And I think what you just said is having a community around you that supported you, and having a tribe.
Yeah.
So when I think of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta, and the community we support here on the West Side, and the mentoring that we do you feel that you are able to pull from those experiences that you had as a child to help you do the work here?
All day. There is no, if it wasn't for programs like a Project Success or mentors like the men in the 100, I wouldn't be where I am today. I clearly understand that I stand on the shoulders of some great people. My grandmother, who I don't think, we used to call her Big Mama. If she went past 8th or 9th grade, I don't know, but she was the wisest person that I ever met. And she forced and pushed me to do things. But I had men at my church who were like, all right, boy, come over here. This is what you gonna do. This is what you're not gonna do. Had, an uncle. He was actually my great uncle, but he was that guy who was like, had older cousins. I remember one time my older cousin they used to drag me everywhere. I used to be in dance competition. I was a really good dancer, man.
Hip hop.
Oh man, what? We used to walk around with the cardboard and
boombox.
Oh man, everything. Right back in the day, I'm a certain age, and so I didn't have a Jerry curl. My hair went like this, and so. But my point in that though, I was always around older people and in settings where people were constantly saying, "All right, come on now, don't do that, do this." I had all the opportunities to get into mess and do wrong, but wrong never worked out for me, right? Because I had this tribe, this community around me. And so when I think about the engagements that we have with the young people here in Atlanta, I see myself in their faces. I'm a lawyer. I live in a different space than I grew up in. Thank God I'm gonna find some wood to knock on. But I can't forget where I came from and how that stuff still goes through my blood. And shame on me if I do. And I think about the opportunities, the very genuine opportunities that organizations such as the 100 affords me to engage in community in the real way, right? Instead of just writing a check. We can write checks all day, but the things that the 100 does, whether it's through our mentoring programs or things over at Best Academy, things with the emerging, allows me to find my space, right, in the lane that I want to be in, and still pay the rent that I need to pay for the life that I live.
So what does it mean to you in 2021 to be a member of this organization of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta?
Okay, I'm about to correct you. My daughter told me in 2021 the other day. I made that mistake. That's okay. It's okay. She runs my life. She's about to be 12. And I will tell you, we have to, in 2021 or 2022, we have to be nimble. We have to be willing to shift, especially when you think now how COVID has impacted our ability to engage in face-to-face interactions with young people. I was one of those young folk who always felt disappointment, always felt appreciated rather by my father, who I can't think if I don't think I ever got a birthday card, right? He showed up at my high school graduation because he happened to go by his mother's house that day. I think he came to my college graduation, similar kind of situation. As I get older, I recognize he had some emotional and mental issues that were never diagnosed. He used substance to kind of dumb or null or not null, dull those experiences. But as a young person, you don't understand that. You just know that that person's not there. And I'm grateful. And my sister says, well, if he's dealing with these things, how different would life have been if he were around, right? And so I know the feeling that these young people often have of disappointment, people in and out of their lives. I understand when you have teachers who challenge or question whether you can actually do certain things. When we have conversations, and again, I appreciate when we were able to get together, right? Whether it's sitting at the tables over at Best Academy or doing community service projects in the schools and seeing them, having genuine conversations and helping them understand, I know where you're from. I see this. Your street look like my street. You live at your grandmama's house. I sleep on my grandmother's couch, right? It is what it is. And I will say, and I'll get back, let you ask another question. One of the things I do appreciate, I tell these young folk, I said, wow, if I had somebody like 100 member, when I was back, I'd be a bad somebody now, right? and the level of engagement that, whether it's a CEO or entrepreneur or a physician or a teacher, that these young people have direct contact with, oh my gosh, right? And for them to realize that all the images that they see of us as Black and brown men on TV or the experiences they have in their community, that's not it. There's no monolith. We're not just one type. And oftentimes when they're like, what do you do? It's like, I'm a lawyer. No, for real, what'd you do? I was like, and you can do it too, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So if you could take us to your experiences, you attended a PWI, predominantly white institution.
Yeah.
What was that like for you going to, and that's the main campus there in Illinois, Champaign. So what was that experience like? And then also if you could talk about your experience of finding your way to A-Phi A.
Yeah. So I was always a smart kid. I mean, probably had no common sense, but I was smart as all get out. And my mother identified that early on. And she put me into programs like a Saturday school, right? I used to go, it was a program called Principal Scholars. I used to get up on Saturday mornings. I was in 7th grade when they opened it up to middle school kids. And I would go every Saturday. And it was held on the University of Illinois campus. And it was taught, the classes, experiments, all that were taught by Black graduate students. And for me, that was just like, because when you are a smart kid, smart Black kid, you start getting tracked in a certain way. And I started being in classes with fewer and fewer people that looked like me. Oftentimes I was the only one. And I pushed because I didn't want to be the dumb so-and-so in that class. It just is what it is. And so going to this program, walking on the University of Illinois campus, it was just like, and to see the people who were running the program look like me, and the other participants were black and brown like me, I was like, oh, this is, and I already knew I was going to college. My mother was like, this is what you're doing. I don't care what you say, you know. And I wanted to go to a different institution for the undergrad. Got in, but they didn't give me no money. Gave me a little bit of money. Chose to stay at University of Illinois. I will just be transparent. One of the things that I was intentional about, I don't know if this sounds good or not, I was intentional about finding my black tribe. And when you are often the only one or one of the only ones, I can name them from my classes going to high school, you know, from in my calculus or physics classes, I just wanted to be around smart black people. And not that I wasn't before, I'm not going to say that at all, because I knew the pocket of that Champaign-Urbana community that produced smart black kids that are around the world doing great stuff. We like what was in the water. It was amazing, right? But for me, I needed a little bit more. So I got to school, and I had these two white roommates, and we had a great time. But they were always wondering, like, I knew they had to look like, why you got all these black people in the room all the time? I'm like, this is the tribe, y'all, come on, because they always had food, come on. And I went to school, and I went to college in 91. 91 was still at the end of the, we were very activists in their activities and things they did on campus. Marching, apartheid still. We had a Native American as our mascot, which is a whole nother something. We were marching against that. I had people, we were sitting in at the president's house. One of my friends is banned from school because he did something at the library. There was such activism on campus. People wearing dashikis and all. I was wearing a little African medallion. I'm like, yes, I have found my people, And it's a campus of 30-some thousand people. And we had maybe, 5, 6, 7, 10,000 black people, however the number was, not quite that many. But enough for it to feel like it's a place where I can find my tribe. And as with regards to Alpha, University of Illinois has a strong history of black sororities and fraternities. It is the second chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi Beta. It is the third chapter of AKA Gamma. Tau chapter, which is my chapter for my fraternity, came in 1917. So Ida B. Wells, her son and future son-in-law were two of the charter members of my chapter. This brother who just passed a couple weeks back, Tuskegee Airman, who was honored during the State of the Union that time recently, he was a brother who pledged at my chapter. And so we've had a long history of collegiate fraternity and sorority stuff at the school. And those brothers just gave good parties. They were also marching and holding signs and picketing. And one of my mentors from high school, told you I used to dance. Well, he taught us how to step. We did a step thing in a talent show one year. I was like, one of my boys who is promising, he swears he spent more time in the mirror than the average woman I knew. I'm gonna be a Kappa. I'm like, yeah, you are gonna be. But my this teacher was was an Alpha, good brother, one of the only black male teachers at the school. I can think maybe we have two? Maybe two at the school. He wasn't one of my teachers. He didn't teach the classes that I was taking, but he had an impact on me. The youth minister at my church was an Alpha. That there's other good brothers who I met at church, they were Alphas. I'm like, that's my tribe. So. Don't regret it, man. Don't regret it. This year be 29 years, man.
So Clyde, explain to us what the pledge process for Alpha meant for you and what did you take away from what you learned then and you still apply it today?
Okay. We had a pledge in a fraternity was a little bit different back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was an interesting process. But it was a process through which I learned a lot about myself. I gained some amazing brothers, one of which actually lives here in town, and his kids are like we want to see our uncle. I'm like, yes, bring them kids to see their uncle, right? And he's been my kid's uncle forever, right? But I when you think about difficulties in life, when you think about challenges that you may face, when you think about the need to pivot, like we're having to do right now with the 100, right? Because situations arise. And one of the things that I learned during that process, you have to be quick. You got to move. You got to be nimble. And if you aren't, there are certain consequences, right? I also learned the importance of what was further reinforced, I should say, of holding your own weight. We don't have time, especially in this day and age, with things that are going on with education, things our students are seeing in the community. We don't have time for dead weight. Brother, I need you to step up and do what you're supposed to do in your lane, whatever that is. You know, I'm a lawyer, I do my lawyer stuff, but I also do other things in my lane, but I have to hold my weight, right? We can't, no excuses, hold your weight, right? Like, so when you text me at 10 o'clock at night, I'm like, all right, man, sure. Now I appreciate that, because what that does for me, it helps me to understand if somebody recognizes what I'm able to do, and it further reinforces I need to hold my weight, right? Another thing I think about is the importance of being vulnerable. And as black men, as men of color, we don't that doesn't sit too well with us, right? And when you're going through that process, if there's a space where you see somebody who's vulnerable and you step up for him, right? Or there's some time where you got to be like, dude, I can't do this, whatever that is, and then but being vulnerable. And I think about the interactions we have with the young people. If all they see me is just this, this wall, and I always got it together. I've never had no problems. I ain't never been broke. They're gonna look at me like, they'll check out and get on their phone or have a conversation, do something else. We have to be vulnerable to the space, in a space where they can see that we're human. They can see that we're real people, right? If they see us as just some, again, oftentimes I feel like the unicorn. Most deals I go into, I work on, I'm the only person who looks like me, right? And I need them to understand that in this space of vulnerability, you can identify, right? One more thing, I'm gonna let this thing move on, is the importance of legacy. When I talked about the fact that we've had, our chapter of the fraternity has been on that campus 105 years, and the brothers who have come through and the things that they're doing, I'm not gonna be the one who mess it up for us. You ain't gonna put that on Clyde. We ain't gonna be suspended because Clyde did some foolishness. Things may have happened, but you ain't gonna put that on Clyde. So when I think about legacy with regards to the 100, it's more than just walking around with our pen. It's more than just parading around with the jacket on at an event. What impact are we having for generations to come? We had a video last night at our meeting, and I appreciate y'all showing that, it was our chairman read a letter. Yes. This mother talked about how three of her children have been impacted by our organization. One is already out of college and getting a master's. Another one is a model and doing some stuff. And another one's coming. That's a legacy, right? Because what that does for not just us, it changes her family and it changes the community, right? We got to get beyond thinking about ourselves, right? What legacy, what is going to be here when I'm gone? When you, brother, are on in the by and by and you floating off wherever you're going, what are people going to say? Beyond what are people going to say, what are they going to look to be like, this is what he left for us, let's keep building on it. So legacy is important for me.
Thank you for saying that. I'd like to go back, you used the word vulnerable. Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'd like to get a little vulnerable with you. Yeah. I know that you talk about your journey of love. We could get into that a little bit if you don't mind. I know we both have experienced that in our lives. And then also through divorce. So I was going to say, so if you could speak to what that journey was like for you and what you went through, and then now with you being a single dad, and speak to that.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier, there's some questions I'm probably going to say I'm not going to answer that. I'm kidding. I will tell you, so I live down the street and around the corner from my ex-wife and children. And that was intentional. I have to put a schedule together because I cook. And if I get up and make all this food and I get there, I already ate cereal. I understand that daddy's coming on these days and we having these meals, right? We have, I've known her since 95. I met her, 95, yes. The first few days while I was in law school. She was in dental school. And dated off and on, been together, we're together since 97. Never thought I'd be divorced, but life happens, right? It happens. I explain to people throughout all this stuff, she's still the mother of my children. I pray for her. I was praying for her this morning. Certain things because I need her to be well. Because I need my children to be well. Right? I don't have those insecurities that it's all about me. No, we're still a family. We went to California together for my daughter's 11th birthday, right? She'll call and be like, oh, I made these red beans. She's from New Orleans. I made these beans. I'm like, oh, girl, come on, bring them beans to the house, right? Because we're intentional with regards to how we are co-parenting our children. Again, I need her to be well, so my children are well. Was it challenging? Yes, it was very difficult. It was, let me be a little bit more transparent. When we decided that this is how we're going to shift our family, it's the same time that I was leaving the big law firm and starting my own law firm. The same time I had to buy another house, right? So my sister was like, dude, you went through 3 or 4 major life changes in 4 months, which I did, right? I slept in some Airbnbs. I slept at a friend's house. And I was telling someone, dude, I feel homeless. But the interesting thing is when you have resources, my homeless was different than somebody else's homeless, right? It just is what it is. But it was still, in my way, feeling displaced or disconnected. When I couldn't see the kids every day, when I couldn't do whatever. We made ways, but that was a very challenging time. And I would tell you, man, I'm a praying dude. God is good. I am a witness from the time that I was a child to now. When you think about the ways I could have done this or done that, his hand has been intentionally on my life. And when I mentioned earlier about the rent that I pay to live, I have a good life. Has it been perfect? No. Do I have challenges? Yes. But when I think about the totality of how things are, my children are well. They still like me. We still hang out. My daughter's an amazing chef because I cook. And the other day I was showing her how to, she wanted some pasta. I was like, well, you're going to make the homemade meatballs. We got the different kind of meats. I had to show her how to use the knife when you're cutting your seasoning. How you do this. Bought her this crazy mixer. It sits on the counter. The girl is baking bread and baking cookies. Had another recipe I came up with. And we spend our time. That's something else was important to me. Had to figure out how to spend time and be present in spending time. Instead of thinking about that deal I got to work on when I get home, or I got to get that email to that client. Being present. And our ways of being present, my daughter likes to cook, so we are present together. We'll be making a meal in there, and we'll look up, and we take the bread is sitting, we'll have to go watch a movie for a little bit, come back. My son, he'll play in the kitchen with us, he's cool, but he likes to go for walks, right? My kids love diners, so we'll go to a diner, and we'll chat. But I've had to learn to shift from the at home every day, seeing you every day, and being comfortable. It was lonely for a minute, man. I was telling someone the other day, I live right down the street, but when you're used to the dog and everybody's, and you get home and it's quiet, that's a time for God to really tell you, all right, let's figure out some stuff. And I'm in a great place. I'm in an amazingly great place because of him, and because of the fact that she and I understand the importance of maintaining a good relationship for relationship's sake, but also for our children.
No, but thank you for answering that, for being vulnerable with that. So I know you said you have some hidden talents.
Oh, man.
And if we could shoot on those two. So one is cooking, and I think the other one is gardening.
Man, landscaping. Don't call it gardening, man. Okay. Landscaping, man. Landscaping. It's so funny. I was at, when I was at your house the other day, I'm watching, I'm thinking, what we can do on the way out. I'm like, we're going to put this monkey grass along the walkway right here. We're going to put it in between those bricks. I don't know, man. I have 20-inch chainsaws. I have 16-inch chainsaw. I have chainsaws on poles. I have axes. I have hatchets. I have this thing, they call it a path clearer. It looks like something from a movie. You can chop somebody's head off. You just walking through and just clearing out stuff. I have all kind of, for me, I like not the instant gratification. I'm outside. It is, now this Georgia clay is a mess to deal with, it's hard. But I know if I'm digging, I'm working, I put the bush in, the bush is there.
So what does that mean to your soul as you're doing this work? What does that mean to your healing process?
It allows me, first of all, it allows me to decompress. You know, I have a pretty high stake kind of career, right? And I don't work 9 to 5. People can always, at least they always try to get to me. And when I'm outside, my phone ain't with me. It's just me. And this, this may sound bad. This may sound bad. My children would try to come out and help. I'm like, sure you can. You know? Then my son, after a while, was like, I'm good. It's hot out here. Now the major project, I'm like, boy, come over here and do this. Good work. Her, she'd be like, doo-doo-doo. Okay, you go dig the hole over there. I'm gonna dig. So I would have my headphones on because it allowed me to just decompress. It allowed me to put my hands in the dirt. There's something about putting your hands in the dirt, man.
Yes.
And there's something about seeing what's done. I had funny. One of my fraternity brothers went to Chicago to help him redesign his landscaping stuff. Another good friend of mine here in town helped him redesign their stuff. That's what I'm like. You just give me your budget.
Yes.
We're gonna walk through your board, and to me, it just helps me to connect with nature, help me to not be around people, and it helps me to just decompress. So I love gardening. Cooking, dude, is my thing. I started out cooking as a child. My mother was a single parent, and we would you got to learn how to get out, learn how to get down, right? And but on the weekends, I would make breakfast, and I kid and make all this stuff, and then during the holidays, she and my sister would prepare like the main dishes, the greens and beans, and she'd say, you pick the dessert. Man, I've been making meringue since I was 10. Separating them eggs, getting that meringue, putting it on top. Man, please. And so when I got to college, my friends were like, what is this? Dude, I'll be frying chicken and should you get together, everybody put in $2? Oh, it is on. Oh, man. And I made a Thanksgiving dinner one time, and I called my Aunt Mary, who was like another mother to me. Her children are like my siblings. She's my mother's aunt, but she has a younger set of kids. You know, Black, but we do be having kids. And she talked me through how to make dressing. And so ever since then, people know Thanksgiving, I'm up a couple days before with my cast iron skillets, making my homemade stuff. So, because again, almost like the gardening, just using my hands and being creative with stuff and trying new spices and do something. Sometimes like, ooh, that was a fail. Like I was trying to make these this peach infused oatmeal the other day. Don't judge me. People, they open the packet. No, my kids need to eat the fresh stuff. So I peeled and I put the peaches in the water, and because I like to make them soft. But I put just a tad bit too much salt in it, and it ruined. I'm like, what y'all gonna have? They had cereal, whatever it was they had. It was not that, right? And sometimes my daughter's like, can we not do this one? I'm like, girl, we just experimenting. But for me, cooking again, and I think also for me, I enjoy doing it for other people. Yes. It's that love thing that I learned from my grandmother, who would make pots and stuff, and folk would just come and eat. And being an unmarried dude now, when you used to cooking for everybody, sometimes I'd be cooking. I'm like, my office benefits a lot. I'm like, y'all here, I made this pot of spaghetti yesterday, or yes, I took some stuff. They're like, yes. You know, I'm like, I cook for like 10 people, and I need to learn how to cook for, like 2 or 1, But I cook, it's always a lot. But to me, that's the love part of it too, though. Being able to share and do that thing, man.
Clyde, thank you for sharing what you just did. I have a few more questions that I'd like to ask you before we wrap this up. If you could think back to your 18-year-old self, your 25-year-old self, and then your 40-year-old self, what would be advice that you could go back if you could travel back in time to just bestow upon them with wisdom?
God, I got so much stuff I would tell. First of all, I probably smacked that dude back in the head a few times. I would say it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. My 18-year-old self, my mother and my father dealt with substance abuse issues over the years. So my 18-year-old self, I had just turned 18 the December before I graduated. That 18-year-old person had some challenges with food insecurity and not having access to vehicle or telephone, and having to walk everywhere and going to school hungry sometimes. The 18-year-old self struggled. and I poured myself into activities at school and to athletics and to, I was the captain of the track team. I ran varsity track all 4 years. I was president of my class 3 out of the 4 years. I didn't get the first year because I didn't run. Student council president, vice president. Club. And it was one of my counselors that said, you need to slow down. Because my 18-year-old self was dealing with some personal things I was trying to escape from in the school setting. So when I think about the other 18-year-olds who are, or 17 or 15 years who are at Best Academy or Coretta Scott King, who have similar familial experiences that I had, that school is a safe base. So we need those teachers to be caring. We need those teachers and those counselors to be able to identify when things are happening. We need them to challenge them in a way academically so their brains can go somewhere to get off this other stuff. So school needs to be a safe space. It's a little pivot. But then that 18-year-old person moved in with my 19-year-old sister because I had no place else to go. My godfather, who was not really, stand up at me as my godfather as a child, baby, but he became that. Had two brother at church. That dude would, just very older, stayed, always kind of like, from South Carolina. He can always bring the temperature down. He drove me to campus, and I just, for the first time, felt as if I had a place where I didn't have to worry about it. I can find food. I can get all emotional, man. I'm sorry. I had, I would tell my 18-year-old self that it's going to be okay. Yeah. I would tell my, would you say 30-year-old self? Yeah. Oh, God. 30-year-old self, I say, man, you're about to be a father in a couple years. Your life is going to forever change. And it's going to be okay. My sister would tell me, let me back up. I had an aunt, and you really have to be careful how you communicate to children and young people. And one, I was like, don't be nothing like your daddy. I heard that so much. Don't be nothing like your daddy. Don't be nothing like, I'm like, okay. But there's certain things that if you're not careful, that you will latch onto and you'll be like, well, maybe I am. Maybe I am like my father in many ways. He was an amazing cook. That dude was always clean. I mean, we used to go pick up his dry cleaning. Them pants could stand up, Back then, you could send a kid to Chicago Avenue with $5 and get some, Cool Miles or Benson & Hedges and pick up the dry cleaning. You could do that back then. I don't know if you could do that now, but back then you could. But my point, I took that in all the negative. Oh, no. But he was a good man, And I would tell my 30-year-old self that I'll make some mistakes, but parenting would be the best thing ever in my life. Focus on career, but be present wherever I am. Whether I'm in a meeting with the 100, whether I'm on vacation with family, be present. Because I often felt I had this pressure because I was oftentimes the only one who looked like me in any legal setting, right? And I always had to prove that I was that man. Dude, I used to wear bow ties every day. My pocket squares would be like, you're not going out. I don't need you to have any distractions. I'm going to be dressed better than you. I'm going to be working harder than you. Just understand. And I would tell myself, dude, simmer down. It's going to be okay. My 40-year-old self, I would say, man, it's going to be okay. Because the 40-year-old Clyde, at that point in time, I had a son who was a brilliant child and had a daughter and was married, was still going through things at the firm, but that's right around the time that, it was right after 06, 08, the market crash. And being in the real estate space, we felt that experience before the rest of the world did, right? And I never forget, we used to have people at the firm, we're like, oh, what's going on with y'all practice? It's gonna be okay. Fast forward a year, everybody was like this, like shell shock. What happened with our economy in the world, and having to pivot. Even then, my practice, I ended up getting some amazing clients, like the Russells, through some connections and some things I was able to pivot on that I didn't necessarily have the time to focus on before, but then propelled me to do some other things. God, It's amazing how God does things. It's when we are operating at a space right here, right? Mm-hmm. He's up here. So think about that when we're working with the young people. All they see is this is I'm dealing with. And you as someone who's not 18, 30, 40, or 45, or like me, right? We can see things at a different space than the young folk will be like, yo, it's gonna be okay. Mm-hmm. Just ride with me. Mm-hmm. Come to the program. Invest your time in Saturday school. Respond to your mentor, right? Go talk to your counselor when you got a problem, Ms. Jones' class, right? Yes. Because at that point in time, you can see your perspective is a little bit different. And you can tell them, yeah, it's going to be okay. Just ride with me.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And let me ask this. So at the end of the day, what do you want your legacy to be?
Man, that's so rich, man. That is rich. I think I want people to just remember me as just being a good dude. Who understood the importance of a family, of developing children who were going to be good citizens of the world, to think beyond just their own needs, their own immediate comforts, that I impacted the lives of people without having to have my name called. You know that. We can work. My name doesn't have to go on anything. I'm not that dude. Maybe I'm more secure in myself than I need to be. Maybe I should start demanding more stuff. No, put me on that program. No, man. Because I need to make sure that we're okay. I explain to folk that it's not for me good enough for my upper middle class black children to be okay when everybody else isn't okay. They got friends who don't live like us. Mm-hmm. They're gonna marry or date somebody who doesn't live like us, and I need them to be okay, right? Mm-hmm. So engaging in community things like the 100 and planting the flag saying that even though we're going through some challenging times with this COVID thing and always having to raise money and figure out stuff, plant that flag and saying we are unapologetic in what we do for these young people. Mm-hmm. And my legacy has to be planting that flag saying I'm unapologetic in how I care about family, care about community, and care about things much bigger than just me. Perfectly, no one has to think about that legacy when I'm gone anytime soon. I need to be here. Lord, let me find some wood to knock on. I need to find something to knock on. But if it comes tomorrow, or if it comes today, I'm good because I know where I'm going. And I believe that I didn't start yesterday with putting this legacy together.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing that. Last question would be, at 50, what do you know for sure?
Woo, I'm not 50 yet. I got a few months. I've been told, man, you're getting... What I know for sure, God is real. However you serve, God is real. I would not be where I am without the hand in my life pushing, saying, don't go that way. Come on over here. Let me open up. You don't deserve this, but here, look at that door right there. I'm like, great, right? I know that for sure. I know that my children love me and I love them. I know that I'm good at what I do. I was listening to a sermon by another 100 member. I was at his church, Bishop William Murphy, and he, without going too much into the message, God gives us things in our hands, whatever that thing is, right? And that thing can be used to make our way prosperous. And when people think about prosperity, they always think about money. That's good, right? We need that, right? We need money. We appreciate our community partners who donate and fund our programming, right? Without the sacrifice and support of many folk in our community, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So we're appreciative of that, right? But what he was referring to, I believe more so, is those intangible things, right? I had this contract I was working on recently, and I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was going to stress, and I remember that. What's in your hand? What do you have? I have a certain level of skill in my mind that I know I can get this done. I got some time because I ain't got to see nobody for another few hours. And I can type and I get the, so I had to get to the point where I'm comfortable in not apologizing. Because I used to have to apologize. Oh, you know, I'm just this. I don't apologize. And I don't walk into any place as a shrinking violet. I have to be the alpha dog in the space that I'm in. It is what it is. Otherwise, folk I've seen have tried to run over me. So I know that I know this stuff. I know real estate. I know deals and contracts. And so what do I do with that, though? It is my obligation to expand what I do to as many different people as possible. I've set up internship programs at the firm where I left. We started a program maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, for minority students, black and brown, who come in. And from that cohort, I actually and they come in high school, just 2 months ago, was responding to somebody's request from the Bar Association to make sure that they're fit to practice law. You know what that does? I've known you since high school. I saw you go through college. And one of them actually came back and worked as a summer at the big firm, and now you're taking the bar exam. Oh, right? When I think about the cohort of those students, at least 5 or 6 of them have gone on to law school, right? Beautiful. The programs I set up through Gay City Bar Association, which is an amazing program. Programs like Brother to Brother, where we bring black lawyers and judges and students and folk together, because I know this stuff, right? I'm good at this stuff. Shame on me if I just keep all this to myself. My job is to expand this to as many people who look like me as possible, so they can figure out a way to create legacy on their own, through their immediate family, through their communities, and beyond that, man. Again, what I know a few things, but I also know one last thing: I can know more, I can do more, I can grow more, and at this age, I'm open to all of that. I ain't scared about none of that.
Nah, brother, but look, thank you for your gift of time.
Oh, man, yes.
Thank you for sharing with us today.
I'm humbled to be here, man.
Yes, we're glad to do this again.
Yeah. We got to do like the real, give me that corporate. I got that at the office, okay? We good, man. We good.
But thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, yes, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for all the stuff that you do. We appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
This is the season for some great things for our organization, because we are committed still to the people in the community of Atlanta, and having you as part of our team is just an added cherry on top. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, brother. Peace and blessings, man. I appreciate that.
Yes. You can pay me later for that.